wrong with that. Here is a map of Indonesia, but this is not a geographical map. This is just the various ways in which you can say 1, 2, and 3. And as you know, much better than me, Indonesia has more than 340 ethnicities, more than 740 languages. It's an enormously diverse country, linguistically speaking, culturally speaking, and that is the reason why I love Indonesia so much. I've been in Indonesia for almost 1 month. You know, I've been in Java, I've been in Sulawesi, I was in Manado just 3 days ago. Now I'm here, I'm going back to Surabaya. So I've been here and I come to Indonesia every year, sometimes more than once, because I love this diversity. So how many ways can you say 1, 2, 3? Let's look at Papua. Where is it here? We don't have it here. We don't have, how would you say 1, 2, 3 in Papua, in the local language?
146 maybe. 146 maybe.
There are more than,
more than 100.
There are hundreds of languages here.
Yes.
So what is the, one of the languages, just one of the hundreds of languages?
Ya, ada gue 146 kalau nggak salah ya. Apa? Bahasa lokal Papua. Mungkin
How do you say 1, 2, 3?
lokal kan?
Bahasa 1, 2, 3. Dia mau dengerin. Tapi pakai bahasa Papua saja.
Oh. Tapi banyak bahasa sih, Raja Ampat lari, Moi lari.
Ya, enggak apa-apa. Berasa apa dia?
Ini orang Papua pasti.
Oke, kalau dari suku saya asal dari Maibrat. Kalau dari bahasa saya 1 sampai 3 tuh saung, ewok, tut, dan jin. Oke.
Take a photo. Say that again, 1 to 10.
Iya.
Yeah.
Saung, ewok, tut, dan jin. Iya.
What's the name of the language?
Maibrat.
Thank you so much. All right. That's fantastic. So see, when I asked you the question to say 1, 2, 3, you didn't know which language I was referring to, and that is because there are so many languages, right? So many languages here. Now, English-speaking countries have a problem. They only have one language, and they think that language rules the world, which to some extent is true, but they want all of us to learn English and speak like them. You should be proud of the linguistic diversity in Indonesia, more than 700 languages. You should be very proud of it. And I'll give you some examples of my own experiences with languages. Now, there is something called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, or the theory of linguistic determinism. There is a theory, some of you probably know it already. I'm sure some of the docents know it already. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is an idea which says that the language we use, or the languages we use, determines the way in which we view and think about the world. So in other words, if you speak a certain language, you can see certain things, and you can't see certain other things. If you speak 2 languages, you have 2 different lenses to look at the world. You will see some things additional that a monolingual speaker wouldn't see. So the more languages you know, the more lenses you have to see the world. So in other words, in plain language, and this has been established by research, a multilingual person, or a person who speaks more than 1 language, is a smarter person. It is true, because you have several lenses. I'm not talking just about language. It could be about mathematics. Some of you are here from mathematics and other faculties as well. So the more languages you know, the more ways you can see the world. So I'll give you some examples. For example, the Inuit or the Eskimos who live in Greenland, they have more than 50 words to describe snow. Because they live in snow, right? And they can distinguish 50 different types of snow. Even a child can do that. And they have 50 words. What about in Bahasa? Snow. Salju. Just 1 word. There is no other word in Bahasa, just one word, because you don't need more than one word. But because you don't have more than one word, you can't actually distinguish different types of snow, just because you don't have the word. It's a pure hypothesis. Here is another example, camel. In Bahasa Arab, more than 100 languages. What about in Bahasa? Unta, just one. Just one, there is no other word, because you can't see things that the Arabs can see when they look at camels. So this means Bahasa is a very poor language, right? Bahasa Indonesia. Doesn't have enough words. No, it's the opposite. Bahasa is a very rich language. Take a look. These words are not available in English. In English, we just say uncle, aunt. There is no older, younger. There is no maternal, paternal from dad side or mom side. So you look at this, and if you think about unta and salju once again, because you have these words in Bahasa and in the other indigenous ethnic languages, the social configurations in Indonesia are much more sophisticated than those who speak only English, because they don't have the word. It's just the opposite. So think about it. Your language is your identity. And this is Frantz Fanon, one of the founders of post-colonial theories. And this is a quote by him. He says, to speak a language is to take on a world, a culture. So to speak 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages is to take on 2, 3, 4 worlds and cultures. The richer you are intellectually, the richer you are cognitively. And one of the unique things about Indonesia is everyone speaks more or less at least 2 languages, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. And I'll give you some examples. So you have your first language, which is usually your mother tongue. It is usually a dialect or a distinct language that belongs to the region. And then you have the lingua franca, which is Bahasa Indonesia. And in your case, guys, you also speak English. So you are trilingual, and that is a great opportunity because you have 3 lenses to look at the world. Now, I travel a lot. Hassan knows that because the last 3 days I've been telling Hassan about my travel experiences. And when I travel, I enjoy the food, I enjoy the places, I take photos, I enjoy the weather because it's very cold in Australia right now. So I'm really enjoying this warm weather here. But I also do something else. Not because of research, but because I really enjoy it. I explore linguistic identities when I travel. By the way, this is not me, this is some other guy. Just got it from Google, it's not me. So let me talk about some of my travel experiences in terms of our languages, linguistic identity, and then I will talk about co-teaching collaboration and how these two are related. Last year in October, I was in North Vietnam and I went to a village called Ta Phin, which is about 4 hours from the capital city, Hanoi, in the mountains. And an ethnic minority lives there with their own language, and they are called the Dao Zo, and they speak a different language. They don't speak Vietnamese. And this is my life. One of the people I met in the village from Ta Phin, and I interviewed her for about 10 minutes. Now, her first language is Dao Zo, right? Her second language is Vietnamese, which is like Bahasa Indonesia. It's called Tiếng Viet, Vietnamese language, but Dao Zo is our original language, our mother tongue. Now, I don't speak any of these 2 languages. So how did I interview her for 10 minutes? It's recorded, it's on YouTube, you can watch it. If you don't believe me. How did I interview her? Without any translator, without any interpreter, just me and her. How do you think I interviewed her? In what language? In English, yeah. I told you the story. You are not supposed to tell that to everyone, Hassan. Okay, so I interviewed her in English, just in English, no mixing, and she replied in English for 10 minutes. It's a video, you can watch it. How did she learn English? She has never been to school. She can't even read and write in her language. in her first language, Daozo, in her second language, Tiếng Việt, Vietnamese. She can't read and write. She is illiterate. She has never been to school, but she spoke in English. How? She learned English by interacting with tourists, English-speaking tourists. Not necessarily native speakers, but English-speaking tourists. For many, many years. And she acquired, not learned, she acquired by simply listening to English. And her English, when she spoke, she made mistakes. She had errors with pronunciation, grammar, tenses, but just like Fred Chicken, just like Free Wife, just like S Crime, I understood everything she was talking about. So that's called intelligibility. So that's in Vietnam. What about in Indonesia? I've been to Toraja. There's someone from Toraja here. Oh, many of you from Toraja here. Kuresumanga. So I've been to Toraja three times already. It's a unique place because it is surrounded by communities, other ethnicities which are very different from Toraja. It is very different. The coffee is very good. I still haven't made up my mind if Toraja coffee is better than Papua coffee. I'm not sure yet. I'll probably decide by tomorrow. But they are both very good dark roasted coffee. Yeah, we'll find out and I'll let you know. But Toraja has very good coffee. So this is what happened in Toraja. I spoke to a person who was making a tongkonan. He's a tongkonan artist, right? And when I spoke to him, unlike My Lai, the lady in Vietnam, I couldn't do that in English. So I had to ask my student Afdal to translate for me. Now Afdal is Makassaris, but he considers himself to be Torajan because he was born there. He speaks the language, so I had to interpret. So my question is, in both cases, we are talking about people who regularly meet English-speaking tourists. But in Vietnam, that lady, My Lai, has learned English, acquired English. But this person or these two people, they haven't acquired English. Why? I needed Afdal to help me, my student Afdal. He did his master's from Monash University. He had to, because they don't speak any English at all. So why didn't they pick up English from tourists, just like My Lai? Why do you think this happened? Why? They had the same opportunities, they had the same interaction, but they didn't learn English. Why? So maybe someone from Toraja can answer. Why do you think the Torajan people, right? Those who talk to tourists, at Ketekesu or Buntuburake. I've been to Lolai, I've been to Totombi, Londa, I've seen the Tau Tau, I've been there many times. Why don't those people speak English in Toraja? Because, speak out.
Okay, for me, actually, people there, they would like to have a good education, but
Yes.
they didn't have enough money.
Yeah, but it's the same with My Lai. They don't have money either.
So,
My Lai doesn't have enough money. She's never been to school. She's a poor lady. And she doesn't have any opportunities to have a formal education, right?
yeah.
But she still learned English. But this man and this man, they haven't learned English. Why?
Yeah, for like my siblings there,
Yeah.
and when she would like to learn about English, but it's very difficult because she has to help her parents
Yes.
to go to the field,
Yes.
to take rice,
Subsistence.
something like that.
Yeah, that's right. So she has the pressure to earn money for her family. So she
Yeah.
doesn't go to school.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. So here's the thing, Torajan people, this is what Abdul explained to me. Torajan people are proud of their language, linguistic identity. And unlike the Vietnamese lady, they think If you want to talk to me, you have to learn my language. I don't want to learn your language, right? I'm not going to give up my language in favor of using your language to sell a product to you. You've come to see me, so you have to respect my language. It's a different attitude. That's why. And as Toronto they say, Misa kada dipo tuo, pantan kada dipo mate. United we stand, divided we fall. So it's a different attitude towards the use of language in terms of your linguistic identity that may either provide an opportunity or an obstacle to learning language. It's all in your mind. So again, think about what I said at the beginning. Do you feel ashamed to have Indonesian accent? You shouldn't be ashamed to have Indonesian accent. Now this is from yesterday, right, Hassan? This is Lisha. I met her and probably her grandparent. What was the name of the island? Sawandarek. This was yesterday. She doesn't speak any English, but she is likely to acquire English because of the environment, and of course she goes to school as well. Meet Linche and Samuel. This is yesterday in the same village, and Hassan was with me. They are going to Sekolah Dasar, and they are learning English. Their parents don't learn English, so this is the first generation they would be learning English. Now, although I'm talking about the colonial mindset, although I'm talking about why we shouldn't have a native speaking accent like a British accent or an American accent, we cannot deny that English is a global language. English is a world language. English is an international language. EIL, English as an international language. English is the only lingua franca which is almost universally used in all countries, so we can't really deny that. But on one hand, we have the persistence of English as a global language. On the other hand, we have something very complex, which is the linguistic environment and climate in Indonesia, where there are so many languages, and you already speak 2 or 3 of them. Some of you speak even more. So meet Mr. Sefnat Watem, and this is also yesterday. We talked to him for about half an hour. A very, very nice person. He's 70 years old. He was raised in Saundarek. His first language is Beteu. I interviewed him yesterday, and he spoke in a language that Hassan didn't understand. Hassan was scratching his head. What are you talking about? Completely different, but he also speaks Bahasa Raja Ampat. And then again, Bahasa Raja Ampat is not unified. It is different across different islands in Raja Ampat area. And it is different from Beteu. And then there are 2 other languages, Mambrasa and Mambraku, which is a mix and match between all of these 3 or 4 languages. So it is amazing how complex the linguistic environment can be in small islands like those in Raja Ampat and in Papua. It is very complex. And then you have English as well, which we have to use because of our studies, because of our future profession, employability, international communication, intercultural communication. So never forget your linguistic identity. You are an Indonesian, you should be proud to be Indonesian, and there's nothing wrong if you have an Indonesian accent. Okay, now we're moving on to a different topic now and slowly getting into co-teaching collaboration. I've been teaching for 27 years at universities, but I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Do you know the motto of Monash University? The motto? Is there a motto for UNAMIN? What is it? Which means?
Being superior.
Being superior. Humanity.
And life.
So these are the values, right? Okay, so the motto of Monash University is Ancora Imparo. We say Ancora Imparo, which means saya masih belajar, I'm still learning. And when I meet my students in Makassar or other cities, whenever we meet, we say Ancora Imparo. That's almost like a greeting. We do that, all right? So I've been teaching for 27 years and I'm still learning. Yesterday I learned from those people in Raja Ampat. Because experience is not the same as quality. Just because I have 27 years of experience of teaching doesn't mean I'm a better teacher. Someone with 2 years of teaching can be a much better teacher than me. Experience does not guarantee quality. Unfortunately, in many places, in many schools, universities, senior teachers, senior educators think they know everything. If you've done a PhD or a master's from overseas, oh, I don't need to learn anything, I've finished learning. It's not like that. The more we learn, whether it's language or mathematics or anything else, the more we learn, the better we know, the more we know how less we know. Right? That's why in Korai Paru, we keep on teaching. So remember, experience not the same as quality. But there are challenges on the way. So if you want to have a nice cup of coffee on a typical day for a docent in an Indonesian university, you have too many obstacles on your way. Is that right, Hiriyapi? Hassan?
Yeah.
Too many things, right? Very, very busy. So how do you develop professionally? With challenges like this comes opportunities, because I always tell my students, if something comes to you very easily, you don't learn well. It doesn't stay with you. If something comes to you through hardship, through challenges, through struggle, through hard work, that's when you learn and you retain it, and it's more sustainable. Alright? So challenges also bring opportunities. So let's step back a little bit and then move forward again. What is teaching? Teaching is just you stand in front of the class and you talk to someone. Is it the same as education? Is schooling and education the same thing? So these are some of the definitions of teaching. I'm not going to explain them because you all know what teaching is, but I want to make a point here. Teaching is the art of communicating a message with an impact. So it must have an impact, not just saying something. I might teach you, a sentence in a foreign language. You might memorize it. It could be Espanol, Nihongo. It could be any language, Minangkabau, that you don't know, right? You don't even know what it means, but I teach you how to say that sentence. You memorize it. You don't even know what it means. That's not teaching. It has to have an impact, etc. It's an art. But there is also a term called pedagogy, which is the science of teaching, not the art of teaching. Okay? So, pedagogy is not the same as teaching. Now, those of you in English education or teacher education, PBI program, you are getting trained for pedagogy. Although we say teacher education, although we say teaching, it is actually the science of teaching. So I'll give you an example how pedagogy and teaching are not the same things. Pedagogy is far more complex than teaching. So 2 years ago, when my daughters were learning how to drive, they are 22 years old now, they had a driving instructor to take them out, a professional driving instructor to show them how to drive. One day I went out with my daughter to teach them how to drive. So we were just going around the street, and making these parking and reverse parking and then going through the roundabout, all of this maneuvering on the street. And at one point, my daughter told me, "Dad, you're a very poor driving instructor. You're confusing me. You're not a good instructor at all." And she was getting confused through my instructions. And she was comparing me with her professional driving instructor who did a much better job. Why? Because what I was doing was teaching. What the driving instructor was doing was pedagogy. Okay? Because the driving instructor not only knows how to drive, she also knows how to teach how to drive, step by step, methodically, disciplined approach. For me, I know how to drive. Maybe I'm even a better driver than the driving instructor. Maybe I'm better, but I don't know how to teach how to drive. If you know how to swim, can you teach someone how to swim? Yes, you can. That's how parents teach their children. But a trained professional swimming instructor will do a better job than you. If you know how to ride a bike, you can teach someone how to ride a bike, but that is teaching, it's not pedagogy. Pedagogy is when they know the approach, the methodology, the theories of teaching how to swim or how to ride a bicycle or how to drive. So remember this, two very different things. But what about cultural issues? This is a photo I took in Enrekam on my way to Toraja 3-4 years ago, maybe. How old do you think this child is? Maybe younger, maybe 13, 12, 13. What is he doing here? Yeah, he's filling up petrol for his motorbike. This would be considered as a criminal juvenile offense in Australia. Here it is okay. Maybe his older brother or his dad taught him and said no because he has to do it. So you see, when we talk about